role-playing games. So the players, they create a new personality. Somebody they can act. Hopefully they'll get a whole new voice, and they'll act their mannerisms, and they'll say, I'm going into the room. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to kick down the door. I'm going to open the door quietly. So the choices that the players make, their actions they say they're going to do, and the words they say, I will say hurrah, I will say oh good, I will say oh we shouldn't have killed him. The choices are all down to the player. And of course, those choices, what they say, will have direct impact on the other people around. If they say hurrah when they killed somebody, like a nice person, then everyone around is going to be thinking, okay, he's that kind of person. And the dungeon master or game master, the person in charge of what goes on, will keep that in mind. This is what the player did in front of these people. It will have an effect on what the other people, the non-player characters, the people in the world, that the game master also is better if you give them all a personality, a direction in life, a difference. So I have a witch in every village. I think it's a fair enough thing to have. Or sometimes a witch and a novice. Or sometimes a pair of sisters. But generally, a village will want to attract a witch. They do things like healing things, and they're very clever. Always. A village, town, city will want to have a witch or more. And so this is one of the decisions that I use to build my world. Before I start a game, I decide, okay, is it going to be in the Dark Ages with people using just spears and stabby bits of stick? Or is it going to be in a time with guns or crossbows? And so you pick a time period. But different countries will be at different parts of development. Different people will be at different, also, parts of technology. So in my game, I have the snaggers, I call them. They might be called orcs in other games. But I find the word orc has got too much baggage with it. Some people will think of Tolkien's orcs, others will think of World of Warcraft orcs. I call the lower creatures snaggers. And they're thin, and they're all wrinkly. And so that makes them different. People won't associate them with orcs. But they're the general creature that's not human. And in my world, I give my players emotional and difficult circumstances which they must think their way through, because the snaggers, very clever, having their own culture and beauty, and mostly, because they're smaller and less organized, they're mostly enslaved by the humans. Some of them treat them well, and some of them less well. They're used in mines, and for cleaning sewers, and for industries such as dyeing and leatherworking, the sort of industries that people don't want to do. So this is a reflection of human society now. Poor people in Asia are messing their way through all the plastic rubbish that's going on, that the rich world is just putting on ships and sending over there. And they end up burning the plastic lots of the time, and burning it and making tofu. And then sometimes selling that back to the West. It's like, oh yeah, poisonous tofu, that's what you need. So watch out where you get your tofu from. So there's an under-society that the players can ignore, or try and save, or try and gather, or do a Schindler's List and try and get them out of there. It's up to the players what they will do when confronted slowly they will meet one or two. They're not out in the daylight. They're not within society. They don't walk into bars and restaurants. They don't do traveling at night traveling all day across the world. So they might meet one, then two, then realize that there's lots and lots of these about. There are also other humanoids, ogres, giants. And I keep them so that you don't meet a whole lot. There you are in a bar and there's giants and ogres and snaggers and there's too many things to describe and get your head round all at one time. So I have my players meet humans just to start with. And so they can get used to that. And they know what humans are like. And the weapons that are used are ones that they're kind of used to. Spears. Everyone's got spears. And then they'll go to by travelling to another town, and people have got slightly different buildings and slightly different weapons. And I make up this world rather than making up dungeons and tasks. Many GMs will buy dungeons. You can buy them online or books. And it will say, okay, this person does this, if this person does that, and it open this room and this happens, and that's great. And if that works well for you, then that's great. If you want to use a world-built world and dungeons in it, then that's fab. Whereas mine, what the people are up to. So I always have a history that's going on. All the way through history, European history, possibly all the world's history, there's always been some bad thing that's encroaching, a disease, a building up culture that's going to invade soon, a crushing down of the Roman Empire, Germans invading, the Franks invading. There's always things going on in history. So I have an overriding tide that's coming on. And so the players that I have at the moment, they know there's something happening north. And because of this something happening north, that nobody around them really knows what's going on, because, there's no social media. There's something going on that's breaking trade. As a consequence, you have things like lack of food, other people trying to take advantage of this, people trying to get their own back from past injustices. And so in the north, there's things going on, and this has broken all the trade routes, making trade difficult, making food scarce, giving opportunities to industrious, adventurous types. Even if they just want to do trading, getting food in, getting a lot more money for it than usual. Hungry people will pay more. There's also a whole set of trades that usually go on. The flint, coloured flint that mages use. This is a trade. The colour flint comes from one place. There's normal flint as well that's used, and even though there's the Iron Age going on in the culture that I have. The Iron Age is going on, but people are still using brass for jewellery, and the poorer people and the snaggers are still using flint to knives and forks, doing butchery of animals, that sort of thing, hunting. If you can't afford an iron spear tip, you definitely can't afford a brass one, or bronze. And so therefore you'd be back to using points from sticks and antlers and pieces of flint on your long stick. Call it a spear. It's quite often going to snap, but it's quite sharp. It does the job. So the smaller creatures, the snaggers, will often be the problem for the players, because the snaggers are fleeing what's going on, and in the process of them fleeing, they need to eat. They will rob people just to stay alive. And so, yeah, they will encounter snaggers, which are smaller and do less damage because they're smaller, and have worse weapons that snap quite easily. But it gets my players able to throw the dice, to figure out how to use the game system, the combat part of the game system. And so I have everybody using one language, the language of trade. They have their own languages, but mostly people talk in bars, in food establishments, along the trade routes, in the inns. People use the one language. And this is where, yeah, of course, I use English, because that's what my players speak. And yes, the players roll up their characters, their intelligence, their agility, their dexterity, their charisma, their voice, how good you are at singing. And they join the game with an idea of what they're going to be like. And I see how they get on with the society at large. Nobody's out to kill them. At first, they haven't made any enemies yet. And they can do as they want. For instance, you've always got to have a reason to leave. Mother, father, names. I get my students, I get my players to give their mother and father a name and an occupation and any background. And I kind of like them being alive, because then you can use them as part of the story in the future. I also get my players, when there's more than a couple of players, to write down rumours about themselves that the people they work with, other people they've met, will say about them. Rumours. 3 false rumours, 1 or 2 true rumours, and a couple of rumours that are kind of half true. So I let my players have a go at that. And so these rumours can be said about them, and it makes the players think about their character. Even if I had a player playing for a while on their own, once there's another player involved, then I'll get the rumours going. It makes them, the depth of their character, more interesting and deeper. Yes, people think about their past. And now they need a reason to go on dangerous, adventurous things. And so I think of this character, in his circumstances, what would make him want to go elsewhere? You can have, there's people coming in and murdering all the family, and there you go, you've got all your family murdered, and then you have to decide whether you're going to go and chase these people who have just murdered everyone you know, which could be very quickly, you don't last very long. So I prefer to do things in a more subtle way. My most recent player character, he was a cook. And I thought, good, interesting, be a cook. So his father's a cook, his mother's a cook, they're in a cookie place, they're in a small place, because if you start people off in a city, they've got loads of prior knowledge they should have of their city. So you start them in a small place and they don't have too many things to learn before they can start playing. And there's a noble, and he's a cook for them. And yeah, so he has to go off and get fish from the seashore. And then the people that try and sort out the problems of the dangerous bits in the north, the trade in the coloured flints that is being curtailed, the people sent to find out what's going on by the mages. One of those needs to get across the water. There's a lot of water. Doesn't like water. I decided he didn't like water. It made more sense. So he needs somebody to organise him a way of getting across the water. And he picks on the player character. And so when the character's walking around at night, throws a stone near him, hides in the trees, starts a conversation so that he can get across the water. That's all he wants to do. Doesn't really want this player character person involved, but we'll see how it goes. And so I roll dice. When it comes up 20, something bad happens. The dice explodes. I roll it again. 2 20s in a row, you've got a shipwreck. If I roll a 1, something nice happens. 2 1s in a row, something very nice happens. And then I have to think about what that can be as you journey across the water. So it took lots of conversations, lots of dice rolls in order to get the player character and the investigator across this piece of sea to the other side so that they can find out what's going on. And then that had a problem. And player character wanted to carry on. Can't remember what we actually decided, how we decided the player character wanted to get on, but he was happy to carry on with this, my investigator. And then the adventures start. I rolled dice, bad dice, so somebody attacked them. And they needed to get horses and stuff, and so they grabbed them from the people that attacked them. And then they went to a village, and then they met new people, and I was rolling dice. Is it good? Is it bad? There's going to be a witch there. What's she going to be like? And that's when, I think on the 3rd game we played, maybe 3 hours each time, the player character found first in a ditch, noticed in a big ditch with a steel grate across the top. Big ditch, well, big enough for a few human-sized, or snaggers in this case. There was something down there making a mumbling noise, and he communicated with it, and he saw that it was in trouble, and he decided not to do anything about it. He asked the investigator about it, and the investigator said, belongs to somebody. Didn't say the word slave, didn't say the word snagger, but belongs to somebody. So best not to do anything, cause trouble for us. And so, went along, and they followed the trade route. Several days, past burnt out places, past places where stuff was going on, where the forces from the north, the mages from the north were doing things and other things, and they saw bits, clues. And most of the time they went, okay, at this point there's only 2 of us, let's get out of here. And they had a little bit of a problem with a baby bear. They got between a baby bear and a mother bear. That was a roll. And it happened when they were split up. So my player character had to suddenly come up with, what are you going to do about a bear coming at you? And so a lot of scrambling about. He managed to survive. But if the dice had gone against him, then maybe he would have died. There always has to be that possibility. I have to be honest in rolling my dice. Oh dear, this bear has hit you. I've given the bear a shorter than usual amount of chance of hitting you. It's starving. So, because, it's a new character player. You don't want them dying straight away, so I make it a badly equipped bear. If it still hits you, if it gets the 20% that it needs to make a hit, rolls the dice on what part of you it hits you in the head, and rolls the damage with 2 off because the bear's not very well, and oh look, I rolled a 10 on a d10, and it takes a lump out of your face. And so maybe it's going to be a journey to the witches, and maybe they can fix you up if you can get a witch in time before infection sets in. Because the bear was just after saving her cub from the human, what was between her and her cub. The human was not, the character did not say, I'm going to attack that noisy thing in the bush over there. No, he didn't know it was a baby bear. But the mother did. And the mother attacked. Because that's what mother bears do, even if they're ill. And so, after several mini adventures, they got to the big town, and my investigator said, okay, because they've been together for 4 or 5 games, and he went off to investigate. He thought it was too dangerous to take the player character with them, and also, this guy can't hide like the investigator can. He's going to be a liability. So he said, you stay in the city. You've got loads of choices. There's the big city up there. This is a big city. I always draw my map really huge. Always draw it 10 times bigger than you think you're going to need, because I need warehouses. Oh yes, I've got dyeing going on. I've got industry. I've got fishing. I've got the gated community where the mages and the guards of the city and the witch of the city, and I've got a cathedral for the church, and they've all got interrelationships that they kind of get on because it helps. And there's enough people to people this city, and I haven't written down all their names or all their stats or all their intelligence or all their... And when the player character starts talking to one of them, I'll go, okay, what's this person like? I'll roll a couple of dice, quickly write down their intelligence, their outlook on life. And mostly I just think it up and remember it. And what's going on? How are the outside forces beginning to affect the town? The people that are trying to disrupt the trade, the livelihood of this town, big town, small city, this town. What are they doing? How would they make it impossible for the town to continue to exist? What's their plans with their skills? And so I'm thinking about the outside forces that are coming, not to get the player character, but to get that town and those mages that live in the town and protect the town and get fed because of the town. What will they do? And how will that affect the player character? So the town has asked the player character to do several jobs because they don't want the general population of the town to know about what's going on so much. They don't want the people of the town to be panicking. So they get this new person, the player character. They're new to the town. They can keep their mouth shut, or they'll be dealt with if they can't keep their mouth shut. Whereas a local would get drunk and tell everybody else about what's going on. So a stranger is useful to them. And that's why the player character is taken along to deal with situations. And also, when I have a situation, such as a whole bunch of spear points coming out of the river, disrupting the trade, bringing the fish from the seashore upriver to this town. These spear points coming out of the sea, what are we going to do about them? And nobody in the town had ever dealt with this situation before. So the witch went to the player character and said, you're a foreigner, you know things we don't know, we aren't sure what to do with this, what's your idea? And I let the player character ruminate on that, and then hopefully by the next game, they've had a week to think about it, they'll come up with a plan. And they did. Phew. And we followed through with their plan, and now we're on the consequences. That's how to get a game going.